Welcome back to History Haze. We've all felt a bit fragile at times, maybe after a long week or a bad breakup. But imagine living every single second of your life convinced that you are literally, physically, a sheet of window pane glass. Imagine believing that if a gust of wind hits you too hard or a servant brushes against your sleeve, you would shatter into 1,000 jagged shards on the palace floor. This wasn't a metaphor for King Charles VI of France. It was his terrifying reality. Today, we're looking at the man who turned his kingdom into a no-contact zone to save his own soul. Before he was the mad, he was the beloved. Charles took the throne in 1380 as a handsome, athletic teenager. France loved him, but the haze began to roll in during the summer of 1392. While leading an army through a dark forest, a spear clattered against a helmet. The noise triggered something deep and dark in Charles's mind. He didn't just get startled, he went into a murderous frenzy, killing 4 of his own knights before his men could wrestle him to the ground. When he woke up from the episode, the beloved king was gone. In his place was a man who didn't recognize his own wife and often forgot he was even a king. But the most famous symptom of his crumbling mind was the glass delusion. Charles became obsessed with the idea that he was made of glass. Think about the logistics of that for a second. Every movement becomes a gamble. He would stand perfectly still for hours, terrified that his joints would crack. To survive his daily life, he turned his royal wardrobe into a fortress. He had his tailors sew heavy iron rods and wooden slats into his tunics, creating a literal cage around his torso. He wasn't dressing for fashion, he was dressing for structural integrity. Life in the French court became a nightmare. Charles strictly forbade anyone from touching him. If you were a diplomat trying to shake his hand, you were a threat. If you were his children wanting a hug, you were a catastrophe. He would often wrap himself in thick, padded blankets, medieval bubble wrap, and hide in the corners of his castle, watching the world through terrified eyes, waiting for the impact that would break him. Strangely, Charles wasn't the last to suffer from this. For the next 200 years, the glass delusion spread across Europe like a psychological virus among the elite. Perhaps in an age of sudden plagues and violent shifts in power, glass was the perfect symbol for how precarious life felt. Charles VI ruled for 42 years, most of them spent in a fragile state of mind. He was a king who held the fate of a nation in his hands, but couldn't trust his own skin to hold together. He eventually died in 1422, finally free of the fear of shattering. So if you think you're having a stressful day, just be glad you don't need iron ribs to keep your body from shattering. If you enjoyed this trip through the haze, hit that like button, subscribe, and tell me, what's the weirdest historical phobia you've ever heard of? I'll see you in the next one.